But a real, really quick intro to the session. Right now, we're talking about how to scale SE resources without burning out your SEs. Because let's be honest, the AE-SE ratio is rarely in the SE's favor, yet often they're required to be part of every demo. So with an overdependence on the solution engineer and pressure to hit revenue targets, the potential for burnout is real. So how do we actually scale SE resources? We're talking about that with this group of gentlemen right here. We have Brent, the VP of Solutions Consulting at Gainsight; Rob, VP of Solutions Consulting at Xactly; Devin, Solutions Engineer at BetterCloud; and leading this session, Dan Katz, Head of Solutions here for Demostack. I'll let you gentlemen take it away. I'll be back at the end.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Hey, everybody. Great to see you again. Happy to be here talking about one of my favorite topics is how do we maintain our health as SEs and scale and do more without burning out. So I'm joined by three amazing panelists here. Nick did a quick introduction, but I just want to share Rob from Xactly, the VP of Solutions Consulting. Yeah. I've had a chance to get to know as a customer. Really great experience with him. Brent, VP of Solution at Gainsight. Also a customer, and then both of these gentlemen are part of the Vista family of companies where I used to be at Acquia. So there's a really neat connection there. And then finally, I'm joined here by Devin, who services big customers at BetterCloud, helping them do their technical validations and quick launches. But he also does some cool stuff that I didn't realize. If you ever see someone riding their bicycle without moving down the street, playing a video game and raising money for their favorite charities at the same time, it's probably Devin. So welcome to you guys.
Great, thanks.
Sure thing. I think we'd probably all agree that we're one of the most resource-strapped roles in an organization. I've never been in an organization or heard of one that is overflowing with solutions engineers, and it's because we're highly skilled, typically a little more senior, not the least expensive resource in the company, and we tend to service a lot of different areas as well. And so as a leader in pre-sales, one of the biggest things we have to struggle with and our challenges is protecting our team, helping do more without burning out. And with the state of the economy right now, companies are looking to stay lean, and it's even more challenging to do that. So that's the topic today, and I want to maybe start here with Brent. Brent, what would you think are some of the core reasons for us always feeling strapped for time?
Yeah, I mean, you can see I'm a big football fan, diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan. I feel like we're kind of like the one-legged Patrick Mahomes, and that we're being asked because we're incredible at everything that we do, and it's basically up to us to step up in those big game situations and deliver. But I think I laughed with you, Dan, before this. I'm like, if my team saw this and that I was leading it, they'd probably think, what's Brent smoking? Because right now, and just like everything that's going on in the economy, like I think we got to be real with ourselves. Is like sometimes we are strapped for either those resources or just because we have such all-stars on our team. Like it is natural. And I think I remind my team a lot, like it's a good thing to be needed. So I think like as we go through this today, like I think you're going to get a lot of great ideas from the four of us, but I also think like the reality is there's not always a silver bullet. There are just those times, and I think it's a good reminder of like it's good to be needed. And so just like when I first stepped into this, Dan, that's really like where I was thinking is like, all right, let's share a bunch of ideas, but let's also be real with each other that there's going to be times where you got to do a lot, and we are going to be a little bit strapped. So.
Yeah, it takes the desire to really want to do the job, to be successful doing the job in pre-sales. But there's ways to get control over it and to manage it. And Rob, we were talking earlier about some ideas you had around leveraging strong process to help make sure we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything Brent said, totally agree with. But process for us is extremely important, because if the reps don't understand the process in the sales cycle, like looking at the sales cycle and understanding when should an SC get involved, right? I mean, we're always being asked to get involved, whether it's stage 2, stage 3, whether it's a certain milestone, and understanding the process and making sure that sales understands the process and expectations of when to bring in the SC and making sure they're bringing us in at the right time. Because like Brent said, sometimes they'll use us as a safety blanket, right? And they'll bring us in the very first interaction with a customer. So you got to make sure that everyone understands what the rules of engagement are. Whether it's an SMB, maybe you get in later and the reps do more of the demo discussion. And then maybe it's an enterprise where you get in the first stage, second stage for those longer sales cycles. So as long as they know that process in the sales cycle, I think that'll help out a lot.
And that's where I think for us, just to kind of double down on what Rob just said, I think for us, that's one thing that I've really realized this year is like, I think SCs are just naturally all yes people, which is a great thing. Like we're always willing to help. But what I've realized, and it starts with me as the leader, because I'm a yes person as well, is like you have to put things in place, to Rob's point, some structure, some rules of engagement. It's basic, but sometimes you can easily forget about it, or it's like, yeah, those sound good on paper, but like, how do they translate to the real world? So I think to Rob's point is like, how can you protect your team where as leaders, you're able to say no on their behalf? Yeah. Because it's so unnatural for any of us, I think, in this role to say no. And it just doesn't feel right because we want to be that trusted partner. So just putting that process and leveraging everything that Rob said to be able to say no with sensible business reasons, I think is just like really key in this topic.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I've heard people refer to SEs sometimes as the team of last resort, right? It's like, it's not only, hey, come on and help at the beginning of the deal, but when things are going pear-shaped, oh man, we need to get an SE on this quickly. And there's a lot of pressure there. So like, Devin, how do we deal with that as leaders with that kind of pressure?
I mean, I agree with everything that was just said, especially Brent, this idea of like saying yes to everything and knowing that there is this pressure to want to perform, be that kind of organizational glue between a lot of these different technical teams. And if you think about it, solution engineers, we're good at what we do because we're inherently curious people. Like we want to really understand the technicals and how things work. And I think, kind of how this whole question was framed to begin with, like in this macroeconomic climate that we're in, like there's a need to completely understand your business differently. We know not every deal is going to kind of trickle in the way that it used to. And there's a greater emphasis on trying to really be a better like business partner, very much so understanding what values you're trying to drive. And it kind of puts the SE in the role where they need to kind of reinvent their playbooks a bit. So we're definitely seeing SEs having to lean a bit more in earlier in the cycle to just understand the fundamentals. Are we saying the right things? Do our customers value the same things?
Yeah, let's get into that a little more. You mentioned organizational glue, Devin. So, what are those other functions in your orgs that your SEs are expected to support?
I'll say from my perspective, what I've seen a lot of our SEs do really well. We're a great, we work a lot with competition and what are like essentially what is going to be our collateral, what is going to be our strategy. What are like the high level talk tracks that we know that our AE counterparts are going to use because we've seen it kind of tried and true with like a lot of our customer base. So we're really interfacing a lot with how that will work from a competitive standpoint. We're influencing a lot of our go-to-market strategy. And that looks like, especially at the start of the year, like we work a lot with our product team on their yearly road mapping process. We will help participate in their design sprints and figure out, what are really the top challenges we're seeing from an expansion point of view. And of course, that will influence hopefully what our deliverables look like for the rest of the year and bringing the rest of our customers value.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of internal facing and not just external facing. And I know Rob, you and I have talked about this a bit too.
Yeah, the organizational glue, I like that. I think that there's so many cross-functional teams within a company, and a lot of them are working in silos. And the SC team is very unique in the sense that we work across all those different silos. So we are bringing those people together. I mean, our team, not just sales and marketing, we work with a global training team, right? We do a lot of onboarding and enablement help for sales reps, work with the product teams, the product marketing teams, proposal management. I'm sure everyone loves RFPs out there. So we manage those along with IT, engineering. So we integrate a lot of these cross-functional teams. And we cross over in a lot of those as well. So like to Devin's point, absolutely from a go-to-market strategy, but all the planning that leads up to it, we are heavily involved in that. So it's not just the customer facing doing demos. That's what I always try to tell my team internally in management. It's like when you're talking about ratios and number of SEs needed to support reps, it's like, that's not it. You got to think about all this other internal stuff that we support as well.
It's given me a little agita just like thinking about all of this right now. So Brent, at Gainsight, like, do you comp your SEs on all this other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so not on all of it, obviously, because we not on it all, Dan, but it's definitely like, I mean, we're still in sales, like we're all still, motivated by revenue. And as we're going into a new fiscal and, it's going through one or some of the new, changes to variable comp plans, it's actually starting to expose everything that Rob and Devin said. Instead of it just being all in terms of net new revenue, it's actually like some of the concepts that we're throwing out right now and sharing are like putting more MBOs in place. And when you start to put those MBOs in place, it could be deliverables to your PMM team to do the competitive stuff, or it could be these are XYZ renewals or saves that were part of our, our customer base. And what I'm realizing is a lot within the organization doesn't realize how much the SC team is supporting. So then I start to have these fun conversations around like, well, could change these variable comp, and maybe we need to start thinking about where the budgeting is coming from, because the reality is, as much as we all are sales generated and we're all revenue facing, it's like we are that catch-all. So starting to, again, and some of it's still in the planning phases, but it's starting to bring more of all this stuff that we're referring to and start to then expose it through comp instead of it just being net new, because then it doesn't feel like the structure of your compensation is directly tied to, the day-to-day and just all the added complexities that come with the job of the SC.
Just
role.
to add to that, Brent, it's funny you mentioned that, because, with my team, you're measured on individual revenue, new revenue. And then so when you start asking about, hey, you got to support this customer, for, just a revamp of an executive demo, it's like, well, what's in it for me, right? I don't get comped on that. I don't get paid on that. So we've found MBOs are a very important thing, because a lot of times with comp, we don't have full control over whether things close. We could do the best job ever, get the technical win, doesn't close. Is that your fault? You don't get comped on that. So I like MBOs because it gives us a lot more control over whether we're going to get that MBO and payout.
So the other thing that I found on this one, just because pay is always a hot topic, is that I think SCs, because again, we're naturally curious, we want to do stuff and we get bored. Like there's also that incentive of like, I feel like a lot of like my high performers want to do special projects and I want to put them on special projects, but then like, sometimes it's like, well, damn, I just did a lot of work for that special project. So then if you can start to incorporate that MBO, it forces me and my leadership team to think about forward-looking priorities, to start to put the right MBOs in place and really, do that 90, 100-day forward-looking, because we got to get those comp. So there's like a lot of other benefits that I didn't really think about in terms of how we're starting to structure this. And again, a lot of this is still not done yet, but it's very exciting. In this.
So again, I'm feeling like really full, hearing all of this and a little anxious about it, because it touches a nerve so much. So, we kind of address that hard stuff. What are the things that we can really control here? And in your orgs, what can we do tactically to scale solutions engineering without burning them out? And demos come up a lot, I know, right? Like that's a common thing, is we don't necessarily need to be in every demo, or can you be on every call? In your orgs, are your SEs expected to do every demo and to be on every demo call?
I would say in our org, the way that we've always culturally worked, and this is, I think, going to vary a lot product to product, but like we sell an enterprise technical product to a person who is, our technical buyer is the same person who's going to be benefiting the most from this. So our SCs are very much inclined to join these calls, just because we don't know if our AE is really going to understand every technical every technical nuance that comes up in that account. And our SCs are really the ones who are expected to really know that detail, very fine grain. I think to answer some of the earlier questions, like, are there ways of potentially tactically even moving this a little bit earlier in the sales cycle? Are there ways that we could be imparting more knowledge where we're not necessarily on a demo itself, but are there ways that we could give previews to pieces of our environment, or maybe some of the essentials, just to even qualify these? Do they even need a demo in the first place? Is kind of where we've been going and where we've been discussing a lot of our plans for this year, just because we know we're going to want to touch more accounts, talk to more people, but we know how many at-bats you need to do before something even resonates and makes sense by the first demo. So that's where we've been.
Yeah, very similar to me, Devin. Those are great points. We look at our product. There's SMB, there's the SMB market versus enterprise, right? And so typically, SMB, you want to try to put the reps and give them some tools and assets to be able to talk before we get involved, because they got to be qualified. It's got to be the right people. Hopefully, you're not getting involved in those. You can get bogged down with a bunch of demos that just don't go nowhere, right?
Oh yeah.
But we also want to try to do is make sure that on the enterprise side, we're following the right way to get involved, and discovery is absolutely crucial here. So before we do any demos, we want to do full discovery, and we know that's kind of changing right now, because we're getting a lot of pressure. I think SEs out there may be the same way, getting a lot of pressure of showing product, because customers and prospects know a lot more information before they engage with the sales rep. They want to go straight to product, and that is always the biggest thing with us is, hey, we want discovery. It's like, no, don't add more steps to the whole sales cycle. Let's get to product. But then you sit there and go, well, we don't know about what they want, so we can't give a great demo. So it's always that push and pull that we're seeing, but we're utilizing some of the stuff that Demostack's doing to hopefully help that out.
Yeah, I'm curious, just to drill down a little bit more on that, Rob. Like, how much time do you think, at least previously, you guys are spending on unqualified demos, or sort of those early demos?
Yeah, no, I would say it's a good, say 30% or so.
Wow.
30%. Where and plus we're getting when you start getting into an influx of new reps as well, where you have to handhold maybe a little bit longer or get them onboarded. You are definitely seeing some unqualified, demos and waste of time, and that gets to the resources as well. So we are trying to arm the reps as much as possible to do as much qualifying as they can.
For sure. Devin, you had shown me a couple of things before, how you kind of help your buyers self-qualify a little bit through using like a product tour. Can you share a little bit about how effective that is?
Yeah, it almost, like, I see this one comment in the webinar chat, no disco, no demo, and it just like but it's kind of like where we're trying to think about this is there a sensible leave behind maybe after the discovery call? Is there something that we could maybe do a bit of a disco hybrid demo approach? Is the way we're trying to layer in a transition into how do you get a better, like, in-tour live specialized personalized product demo? And the way we see that kind of in between are like Demostack product tours. So we've been testing making a use case library, basically, of some of our most common things that we'll hear about that we know that are aligned to business challenges. And the way we see that is, why not give them a sample product tour where they could click through, and we will have a better idea of qualification before they show up for the live demo.
That makes sense. I'm also curious, Rob, you were saying 30% of time on unqualified demos. There's probably some prep time associated with each one of those. How are we handling like those requests to customize demos right now? I know Brent, you've talked to me a little bit about that at Gainsight.
Yeah. So for us, because we're trying to fight what Rob's referring to, and so what we've done is like kind of a give get with our reps, where it's like, hey, what you all really want is a customized approach to our engagements. But in order to do that, we need all this, the right disco up front. And then what we're doing to then scale that out is because we have a lot of R&D in Hyderabad, India, we actually have a solution engineering, think like demo builders that are part of my organization. And so basically what it has allowed us to do is then we have a template, we have internal templates that are like, we call it colorizing. So how do you all want to colorize this to then show up and make it look and feel as if it's all the attributes of that specific prospect? And so really being able to leverage that team. And it goes back to what Rob talked about at the beginning. Really what we did is we did a deep analysis of just like where we were spending our time. And we realized that not only was it early in the cycle, but within that early part of the cycle, we were doing so much time in the build itself. So that's where it's like the build was where we realized we've got some expensive resources doing that. How do we then start to scale that out, get the build in place? And it gets us about 80 to 90% of the way there. The SCs are then presenting, go in, make some tweaks, an hour before the demo. But that team in India has really helped us scale out that customization / colorization in our sales cycles.
Very cool. I want to just pause for a second. There's a couple of good questions in the chat that are related to this. So Nolan was asking Devin, to dig into a little more about like the single use case or case specific product demos. Like, are they small nuggets, or are they, different use cases that are combined? How long are they?
Yeah, I think, Nolan, you're right. It's like 3 to 5 minutes has kind of been our best practice here. Like, it should really only cover one use case. The way we look at some of our use cases, we know there's maybe a top 5 to 10 that we know that people are going to ask for or mention as part of the initial discovery. So we leave it up to the AE to kind of, match exactly what it is to what they would probably show in the product. And the idea is that these tours are gated. So like the AE had to have an initial discovery call with them. We trust them. It's a limited access sort of thing where it will only be live for a certain amount of time. So like a week at most, basically the amount of time they would be before they even meet with us for a live demo. So that's sort of the idea, how we kind of do a bit of that stitch of the discovery to the like a light demo to a full demo.
Makes sense. There's one other comment that I'm curious to bring in here. Joshua said there's a difference between wanting to see product versus wanting to see how the product solves their business issues. And I think if we bring that back to scaling SEs are generally pretty good at those value conversations and asking so what and why it matters. Do these types of customized or colorized demo templates that you do, Brent or Devin, the product tours, or Rob, the demos that you're building with Demostack, help? How do you convey the so what versus just showing product?
It's a tough one. I mean, there's a bit of a gap here of like, the best practice is to personalize and customize as much to the business value as possible. But here we are, like, it's a template, and
yeah.
There's a bit of that, like, how do I really get good in the personalization? And I don't have a perfect answer, but the way I think of it is it's like the AE should hopefully from their discovery, especially if they're really strong rep, know how to match a bit of what we're showing in the platform to the message that they're tailoring as they're doing the discovery and leave behind material. So I hope that is kind of what carries it over the line.
Yeah, I always preach discovery drives customization, right?
I like that.
So we look at different types of demos that we can give depending on what type of discovery we have. We have zero discovery, great. Unfortunately, you're probably going to see a harbor tour, but we probably want to send you some things like Devin's talking about, like, hey, here's a tour, here's an interactive tour. Tell us what's interesting to you. And then we start getting into things like basic discovery. Maybe they send over a few things here and there. We can tailor a demo, maybe change some labels, change some wording to make it sound a little bit more personalized. And then if we get full discovery, by all means, let's go build out the value pitch and show it exactly like they want to see it. And hopefully you can convince the sales teams, because typically they want to cut corners and get to close as soon as possible. But hopefully you can convince them that discovery drives customization, and customization can help drive what the value truly is. And you're going to have a better demo. Even though it may take longer with an extra step of discovery, it's going to end up shortening the sales cycle in the end. That's
what I love that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for us, just to get tactical, I mean, basically we have like our 4 primary value drivers. So it's like, you kind of always know those are the 5 business outcomes that most organizations are looking for. Those are kind of like your templates. And then to Rob's point, you're then the configuration and customization of whatever that value driver demo that you're focused on evolves with discovery. So the first one may be the off the shelf that has their logos, their, little things that you can just quickly learn from G2 or something. And then that can evolve into specific use cases. So that's kind of the way that we think about it, from off the shelf, and then just start to let that evolve. As it sounds like Kristen put in it, like as it evolves with the maturity of that opportunity and in the discovery that you're doing. So
it's a give to get also, right? So the prospect is investing in you if they're engaging with you in deeper discovery, and so that you can invest in them with a more tailored, customized demo or POV type experience, right? Another way I think about it is the bite snack meal approach. So that 0 harbor tour, that's the little bite. Okay, I'm interested. I'm going to have a snack, which is a little more in depth. And okay, we're ready for the meal. I'm really ready to sit down and sit at the table with you. We'll do a full kind of exercise. This is great. So we're running out of time here. I want to ask one question to our panelists. what is the one piece of practical advice you have for our audience on how best to scale your SE resources? Just pick one.
Use Demostack.
I did not make him say that. I did not make him say that.
To say that. I will say there are some cool tools. Like, I didn't get to talk a lot about this, but we use like sandboxes as a leave behind too. Kind of going back to that bat, bite, snack, meal model. If there's more efficient ways for us to produce snacks, that's, I think, what's been helping us a lot as we try to scale more and touch more accounts.
I kind of tend to go, I'm an ex-sales rep, so I kind of tend to go towards a relationship between SCs and sales. And I think if you have a very close working relationship with sales and sales management, and everyone understands expectations and understands the sales cycle, that permeates down to the reps and permeates down to the SCs. So when you start talking about who's going to get assigned, when are they going to get assigned, how do we push priority deals, when do we say no, right? And do we ever really say no? But when do we say no? Those things have direct effect on how your resources, how much your SCs are going to be used and overused. So I think if you can get that down and really focus on that, and then use some tools as well to fill in the gaps if things aren't exactly right. But I think that expectation setting and working with sales management is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Well, I want to work for Rob.
Yeah, me too. I was just going to say, like, don't say yes to everything, say no more often. But I think in order to do that, you do have to have that partnership with your sales leadership in order to help. Because if not, then it's going to, there's going to be a battle.
Yeah, excellent. I'm just taking a look at our chat here. There's a couple other questions that I wanted to highlight. Connor had a question about, we were talking about some of our challenges. How much should SEs be involved in like the annual business planning as they have so much visibility upstream and downstream, right, of what's going on? And in your organizations, are the SEs involved in QBRs, and how does that cadence work?
I mean, I'll start. We are a big piece of it. Again, I think it goes back to what Rob was talking about. We've got a great relationship with our sales leadership, and they see us as that value add. I mean, for us, what we really started doing is we just added a SC sentiment as part of our overall opportunity, and it goes into just predictability in the pipeline. So it starts by those weekly pipeline reviews, and it's like, well, this is where we're off between sales and SCs or AEs. And so it's like we started small, and then once that value became so obvious that now it's like QBRs, FY24 planning, all of that. It's like now it's just the natural. It doesn't even get questioned of should SCs or SC leadership be part of this.
I apologize. I'm going to interject, gentlemen, just because we have to wrap this. This was an incredible session. This has been a really exciting day here at Demo HQ Day. Appreciate all your time. Please follow these gentlemen on LinkedIn because obviously there are a wealth of knowledge on this topic. Dan, thank you very much for doing a great job. Stick around. We have one session left. It's going to be Jonathan, our CEO and co-founder, talking about the demo maturity model. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you so much. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.